War is hell. You do not want war. You do not want war. The latest reporting, a story that's going viral that every pundit is picking up. Hamas terrorists murdered 40 babies, including beheadings, says report. Israeli soldiers discovered horrific scenes at Kfar Aza kibbutz near the Gaza border. There's a lot that needs to be said about this, and the first thing is be wary of the fog of war, be wary of propaganda. However, I've watched a bunch of videos, man, and when I heard stories about beheaded babies, it's insane to even say. The videos I've watched, I would just say this. My initial reaction is I hold some skepticism to the severity by which this is being reported. And I would imagine that likely what did happen is, they probably did find dead babies. The idea that there are just massive amounts of babies who are all beheaded, seemingly ritualistically, I don't think is true, but I believe there were probably some babies that were found killed. And the reason why I think this is likely true is, look, man, there are videos of civilians panicked and fleeing. And, dude, I watched a video of two militants killing people at point blank range. Some of these videos are hard to find. Some of them are hard to watch, but you can find them if you're doing the digging. It's war. It's hard to know what is true and who is right and who is wrong. But I think there's more than enough videos that can't be faked to at least give us, at least present the idea that the probability lies with stories like this being true. But I must warn all of you, and again, I will stress this, fog of war and propaganda. It's war, man. And information warfare is of the utmost importance when it comes to strategy and building public support. And I want to again warn everybody that it is typical of countries to create these stories in order to justify public support or to garner public support. But again, I cannot deny these things when we've seen the videos that we've seen. I've watched a lot of these videos. Dude, this is a reality. You have people that are trying to make the argument that Hamas was not killing civilians. And there's videos that put the probability towards, I'm trying to be very careful on this one, right? Because this is an insane story, but we don't know definitively, right? Whenever big breaking news and war and conflict happens, we must be very careful. Because old videos are surfaced. People will take videos from other conflicts, claim it's one thing. Photos pop up saying this person jumped on a grenade in your life. And then you find out later it's not true. We saw this with Ukraine, the ghost of Kiev. These stories are fake. But I would say my view right now is probability dictates Hamas likely was killing civilians without regard to the age of the victim. That being said, everyone's tweeting right now, babies beheaded. And I'm like, okay, man, welcome to war. Again, I don't immediately believe or disbelieve, but I would say, and I would stress, I've seen enough videos so far that I believe it's more likely true than not. But we must be careful because there are many people calling for U.S. intervention to some degree, which I, for the most part, oppose. But I'm sorry, guys. People will say Tim Pool, milquetoast fence or whatever. Yeah, I don't have the moral authority or knowledge of these events to be able to determine whether or not we should be taking the lives of individuals. I don't support the death penalty. Do not come to me for your moral answers. I am not a moral philosopher, a priest, imam, rabbi, or any other spiritual leader, and I don't have answers for you. I can simply tell you what's going on and understanding the logic of these stories. That being said, I do think you need to know what is being reported because this is going to be when it comes to how we remember this moment, it is this story. This is from the JC.com, NewsGuard certified, of course, if you care. Bodies of young Israeli babies, including some with their heads cut off, have been found by IDF soldiers in a southern Israeli kibbutz, according to reports. Soldiers discovered the bodies among burned out houses, strewn furniture, and torched cars after Hamas terrorists attacked Kfar Aza kibbutz near the Gaza border. In a video on X/Twitter, I love how everyone's doing that, by the way, an I-24 journalist said, quote, talking to some of the soldiers here, they say what they witnessed as they've been walking through these communities is bodies of babies with their heads cut off, and families gunned down in their beds. We can see some of these soldiers right now comforting each other. Kfar Aza was one of the hardest hit areas when Hamas terrorists attacked Israel on Saturday morning. I watched a video of 2 militants killing people at point blank range, of going into a building and setting fire to the house. And people ask, like, why are they sharing these videos? Why would they? Have you seen the videos coming out of New York where they cheer for this? Look, I don't know what else to tell you, man. Fog of war, we don't know. Just because you're seeing videos doesn't prove anything. That's true. I suppose there's a preponderance of evidence. The activists in New York City are celebrating the bombing of civilians. Right now, we're getting a report of more rocket fires on Israel, more civilian targets being hit. Look, if someone comes to me and says, here's a Palestinian activist in New York celebrating civilians being bombed, I'm kind of like, yeah, if someone comes to me and says, we found a bunch of dead civilians, including babies, and I'm like, well, those people are celebrating it having happened. What am I supposed to say to this? What I will say is, be wary. Be wary, my friends. I welcome all of the anger and rage from the more pro-Israel faction for me having brought up this story here. The Nayirah testimony, false testimony given before the U.S. Congress by a young woman claiming that Saddam's forces were taking babies out of incubators in a Kuwaiti hospital to leave them to die. It was false. It was a lie. These things are often, there is propaganda, we know this, to justify expanding military strikes or military presence to generate public support for war and conflict. All I can tell you is this is the report coming out right now, based on what I've seen in actual videos. Look, if the argument is that Israel has fabricated several dozen videos of this stuff happening, like, sure, I guess another grand conspiracy. I don't buy it. When you have videos of Hamas militants and terrorists, because they're attacking civilians, celebrating it. When you have activists in New York celebrating it, you have a man celebrating that civilians are killed. I'm not exaggerating. He's laughing about it, saying that they cheer when he says they came in and took a bunch of hipsters who were dancing. I'm sure they're doing fine. And they're dead. Like there's videos of this, man. Whatever. I don't want war. But it's hard to know what's true. We have this story from the New York Post. Israeli family of 5, including 3 young kids, murdered by Hamas after taking shelter in a safe room. People are going to believe what they want to believe. I can't do anything about that. By all means, you look into this and you draw your own conclusions, because I do not have the grand moral answers. What I can tell you is I know people from Israel. I also know people whose families come from Palestine. I know reporters who have been to both Gaza and Israel. And I have friends who had missiles explode. I've seen the videos. I remember talking to one friend who messaged me in a panic saying that a rocket exploded above their house and they're panicked and running in their basement. They don't know what to do. And I'm like, man, war is hell. I don't have the answers for you. I can say that 50 billion times. I know journalists who have gone to both places and they say it's bad. You're in Gaza, there's a fear of airstrikes. Hamas, the Al-Qassam brigades, they'll open fire. You're in Israel, you're hiding in a basement as rockets are blowing up above these buildings and hitting apartment buildings, hitting vehicles, hitting buses. And now over 5,000 rockets were fired, I think in just one day, reaching Tel Aviv. It's a scary reality of what war is. Yes, civilians die. I don't know, man. Israeli family of 5, including 3 young kids, murdered by Hamas for taking shelter in a safe room. Yes. Look, when they fire rockets indiscriminately and they hit civilian targets, and this is a fact, why would I believe that this story was a plant or fake? You tell me that Hamas kills civilians, and I'm like, right, they've been trying to do that for a long time. And they celebrate it in New York. Here's where things are getting scary. Take all the other news, however you want to take it. CNN is reporting U.S. offering Israel special operations planning and intel support for any hostage rescue effort, officials say. They say the support would not entail U.S. troops on the ground in Israel. Instead, the assistance would come in the form of intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. I do not believe it ends there, though. I do believe that there is a decent percentage probability that the U.S. does deploy boots on the ground. We'll get into that. The support would include help from U.S. Central Command and U.S. Special Operations Command, the official said, as well as Joint Special Operations Command, which is the command within the military that develops special operations tactics and plans. The topic also came up on a call between Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and his Israeli counterpart, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Over the weekend, the official said. Afterward, Austin directed the JSOC team to lean forward with planning and intel support to the Israeli military. I don't know if y'all heard me talking about this the other day, but this is what my fear was, that if U.S. hostages are taken, it's going to be a bunch of JSOC guys dropping out of helicopters. This is the story that this is what we're trained on. I did what's called a heat program. They call it. What is it? Like hostile environment action training or something. I don't know. And all these journalists, they so desperately want to do the heat training. Stupid. There, when I was, I covered civil unrest. I did not cover war. I was in Ukraine for just before the ousting of Yanukovych, before it devolved into hot conflict. There were Molotov cocktails. There were buildings being burned down and people were getting hurt. But once the bullets came out, I was gone. I do not have the capabilities, the skills, the prerequisite training to be a reporter on the ground in these circumstances. Egypt during the revolution, Brazil during a lot of riots. Basically, civil unrest and riots were my limit. And some brutal stuff, too. I was in Egypt. I watched someone die. And so it's brutal stuff. It's brutal stuff. But when you're getting trained, what do they tell you? Well, I'll tell you. They explain to us that if you are taken hostage, it is the policy of the United States not to negotiate, but to just send in special forces and just kill everyone. That's how they broke it down to us. Do not panic, retain hope, and we will try to rescue you, is what they told us. They said there's a lot of things people try, but there's, you never really know exactly how you deal with this. Like if you're being kidnapped, you can feign illness or weakness. Maybe you're too much of a hassle that they might leave you behind and just like, we need hostages that aren't going to die. And so they just don't waste the bullets. Who cares? Whatever. But you don't know. You may feign illness or whatever, and they may say, this person's no good to us, and just kill you. You may just go along and they keep you alive. What they said was, their actual advice was to just do as you're told. Don't resist. Escape if you can, but be careful. I mean, they may just kill you. But the reality was, for the United States not negotiating with terrorists, what tends to happen is you'll eventually hear a helicopter overhead. Something like 90+% of American hostages are rescued, and dudes will descend from a helicopter in the middle of the night vision goggles, coming in and just gunning down everyone who took the American hostage. The purpose of this was to send a message that if you take Americans, there is no negotiating, only the death of you and your family. It's brutal. It's war. We actually did this scenario where they did a bunch of training scenarios. We got kidnapped. I'll tell you the craziest thing. Blindfolded, bags over our heads. They brought us into a warehouse where they made us stand up against a wall, facing the wall for 4 hours before bringing us into a room where we're sitting at a table and there's a light hanging right in front of your face. So you can only see people's legs, and then they ask you questions. And they didn't hurt us or anything. You might get hurt if you're actually kidnapped. This was a training scenario. The crazy thing that I experienced is after it's crazy. You get interrogated. It's kind of fun to do the role play, to be completely honest. They ask you a bunch of questions. I just answered, what are you doing here? Reporting. Why? It's my job. Who do you work for? Insert company. And then they're like, we don't believe you. You're a spy. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. Then they put you back out, make you stand against the wall again. Blindfolded. You can't see. And then all of a sudden, we hear a door bang open. We hear screaming, hands up, hands up. Everyone put your hands in the air, hands on the wall. And then eventually you get carried out with your hands cuffed. They bring you outside, put you on your knees, take the bags off your head. And there's guys in, military gear with guns. And that's the scenario they put us through. And there's like gunfire and stuff like this. It's crazy to really experience. What has me concerned right now, and the reason I bring this up, is that should this be the actual route that the U.S. takes, it would mean the U.S. direct involvement over what's happening with these American citizens that are being held hostage. And we could be seeing, with these stories of babies, with reports that JSOC teams leaning into this, we could be seeing an escalation of hot war in the Middle East with U.S. involvement. The U.S. has already deployed a carrier group. They're already now pledging U.S. special forces, not boots on the ground. But I don't think it ends there, right? We are seeing this incremental escalation. And there's concerns that Taliban, that Iran are plotting. Reports now that people in Lebanon are fleeing the southern areas as they see this conflict could escalate dramatically. And we could be staring down the barrel of World War III. And we can only say that because with Ukraine, we did have the fear of World War III. Could Eastern European war be World War III? Because this is Russia, China, and Taiwan. And we don't know where that door is. But now with this, it's looking like we may have walked through it. If conflict erupts in Israel between Lebanon, Jordan, which pulls in Afghanistan, Iraq, and a bunch of other countries, Iran, maybe. Then we have Eastern European war, we have Middle Eastern war, and then China, seeing their opportunity, takes Taiwan. This pulls in Japan. The Korean conflict erupts because North Korea and South Korea are obviously at odds. Australia deploys, their resources, and then, baby, World War III. I hope not. But come on. Where we're at now, I don't know what to tell you. A story of beheaded babies. It doesn't matter if you think it's true or not, and I say this all the time. In the fog of war and in war, there is propaganda, and we don't know what is true or not. I'm sure there will be many people who are more conservative, more pro-Israel, telling me, Tim, are you kidding me? You think they're lying about this? And there will be leftists saying, that's not true. Nobody's beheading. That's a crazy story. And I'm just kidding. Doesn't matter. It obviously matters in a moral sense if they are killing babies. But in the terms of the grand scheme of war, understand it does not matter if it's true. It matters what people believe. And that means there are people who have witnessed atrocities. I've watched the videos myself. I believe that the preponderance evidence suggests it's more likely true than not. I'm doing the best I can. I typically want hard evidence, but I've seen a lot of these videos. We know the mentality of these activists. They say, oh, they're freedom fighters celebrating the killing of civilians. Why would I disbelieve this? I'll tell you, there's some skepticism because of the past, and I understand war and all that stuff, but I will just say once again, there will be people who will rally and say, look what they've done to these babies. And no one's going to post pictures of beheaded babies, dude. It's just not going to happen. Sorry. So I don't know what to tell you. But this will be used as casus belli, justification for war. The capturing of U.S. citizens may be how the U.S. gets involved in the conflict directly. The U.S. is already pledging support. And then we have this from USA Today. Bring Ite home. American parents plead for Biden's help rescuing hostage held by Hamas. Outside the U.S. Embassy in Israel, parents of a kidnapped American-Israeli dual citizen stood in protest Monday, pleading for action from President Joe Biden to save their son. Ite Chen, a 19-year-old member of the Israeli Defense Forces born in New York City, is believed to be among the 130 or more people kidnapped from Israel by Hamas terrorists now being held captive in Gaza. Hamas threatened explicitly, in their own statement, they will execute civilians. I don't know what to tell you, man. These activists, the left is evil. They really are. Where I fall on this is we want the war to end. I don't know how you do it. But Israel's message tends to be, we will stop rocket fire by any means necessary, which means if Hamas and the Al-Qassam brigades are operating out of schools and hospitals, those blow up. And what are we supposed to say? No, don't take out the rocket depots. Let them keep firing rockets at civilian targets. They're doing it. Like they're proud of it. I know a lot of people are just going to, on the left, are going to keep saying, I don't believe it. Like, bro, they're in New York City cheering for it. So just stop. Okay. We get it. They want the rockets. They're all evil colonizers. We get what you said. Man, this is an American citizen. Some have said to me, yeah, but is it an American citizen or a dual citizen? I'm like, does it matter? It doesn't matter. The German national that was reportedly killed, there's now reports that she may be alive, but just severely injured and in Gaza and being held hostage. Dude, I don't see where this goes other than full-scale war. I wish it was so easy to just be like, we knew how to avoid these conflicts, but the state of the world is, and I'm born into it, you're born into it, and the state of the world is as we are now, and we are just, it's dominoes being knocked over. I know a lot of my friends are going to say we should just pull out, not be involved, and just say screw off. I wish I could say it were that easy, but it's not, because American citizens are there. And if an American citizen is trapped, do we just say, no, we leave the Americans to die? It was their choice to be there. Or there is Israeli Americans, so they're Israeli citizens too. That's Israel's responsibility. Doesn't matter. People in America are not going to stand for U.S. citizens being held hostage. The report of which is now, I think it's maybe there's more than one. The U.S. Embassy sits facing the Mediterranean, the very same one Hamas fighters infiltrated to launch their deadly offensive. An emotional Ruby Chen, holding hands with his wife, called on the Biden admin to reach out to Hamas leaders who kidnapped his son and demand the militant group follow international laws for protected war prisoners. Corporal Ite Chen serves in Israel's armed corps and was on the Gaza border during Saturday morning's attack. Raised in New York, reciting the Pledge of Allegiance each day and cheering on American sports, Ite Chen grew up a LA Lakers fan who adored Kobe Bryant. That's how kids are. But you realize he's on the border as an active participant in a military conflict. And this is the challenge we face. An American citizen is an American citizen, and America must afford protection to American citizens. What do we do? You can argue that because he's also fighting for Israel, it is Israel's responsibility. I think it's a fair point, actually. If you were an American, but you choose to go fight in Ukraine, you made your choice to fight for another country. If you're an American Israeli and you fight for Israel in their military, I don't think it's fair to just be like it's an American hostage. It is an American Israeli soldier who's being held hostage. But in the end, the stories are only going to get worse because this is what war is. And I don't see an exit for us. I can say I wish we weren't involved. I can say that I overwhelmingly oppose U.S. intervention in foreign conflict. But I don't know. It just feels naive. It just feels naive sometimes. Because it's like, it's an inevitability, I suppose. People want to fight. And with what's happening in Israel, with what Hamas does, I don't see how you have an option. You know, I've read a bit about the history of Israel-Palestine, a bit. I mean, like a small bit. I'm not an expert on this. And what I see is revisionist history. What I mean to say is the left will tell you that the history is all wrong. And they'll say, here's the truth. The pro-Palestinian side says, here's the truth. The pro-Israel side said, here's the truth. And it's just like, one thing I can tell you is this. The far left lies about everything. They're evil people. Not every single one of them. Maybe they're just, some of them are just the banality of evil, ignorant. But for instance, I played a video this morning from Al Jazeera Plus that said there's only 5 border crossings with Gaza, completely ignoring that Egypt has a border crossing with Gaza. And I'm like, why don't you bring that up? Show us the nuance. They said they're just trying to return home. I'm like, bro, they killed a bunch of civilians. The liars celebrating death. You're going to hear more about this. Beheaded babies. It is going to be the rallying cry, the war cry. I do not want to see us descend into World War III and face potential nuclear annihilation over this. I don't have the answers for you, my friends. I'm sorry I've said that 50 times, but that's just the reality. With Americans being held hostage and special forces offering assistance, don't be surprised if the next step is American boots on the ground. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.